Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for those who are continuing the round-the-clock coverage of World Sustainable Procurement Day. I'm Nancy Gillis. I'm the Senior Director for Industrial Decarbonization here at the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. I'm a member of the Sustainable Procurement Pledge, and I'm super excited to be moderating this session today. We're going to talk about how procurement continues to drive decarbonization, and we're going to give you specific actionable information that you can use within your own organization to do so. And we're not just going to give you the good news, we're also going to tell you the what not, right? Because it's not only what should you be doing, it's also what should you not. So with that, though, let me turn this conversation over to the lead presenter, Bridget Ferrari. And let me also add that just at the recent Scope 3 peer group meeting that happened in London, I had the great pleasure of sitting down with Bridget and all of us talking about the changes that we're going through and really how it means to be part of the sustainability procurement set of people. And we recognize how powerful procurement is in making sustainability happen within organizations, especially, of course, decarbonization, and how it really takes a unique and committed group of individuals to do so. So I was super excited to be able to join this panel today and hear both what she's been doing at her organization, as well as from Alexi, who's really going to give us the detailed, this is why it helped examples. So with that, Bridget, it's great to see you again. Let me hand the conversation over to you.
Thank you so much. And I can't tell you how much, what it meant to me to have a whole dinner with you. It was the highlight of definitely London and highlight of the year. And it was January. So, I mean, I hope it didn't peak early, but I think, so thank you anyway, for agreeing to moderate, especially at such unique times of the day. So I'm in Boston. It is quite late for me. I am not a night person. So I've had a lot of water and a little bit of coffee. So let's get going. And thank you to Alexi, of course, for joining with us as well. Alexi has been, you could say, my partner in crime on some of the work we're doing within procurement, Takeda, and a constant source of suggestions, input, and as Nancy said, don't do that, what not to do. So why don't we go to the next slide, please? So I've put this up. Who can interpret this? If you don't mind hitting again, this is Takeda's public net zero roadmap. I see things like this frequently. I am wondering how many of us are being asked to take something like this and translate this into action, or even worse, asked to share this with our teams. I've been working in this world for years, and I have a hard time figuring out what are we going to do with this. I can't imagine scaling this and sharing this across an organization that is really still trying to get their arms around what does decarbonization, what does net zero mean, and then also trying to explain that to their stakeholders in the business. I think that would be a very unpopular approach. So if you don't mind going to the next slide, please. And the next one. Does your inbox look like this? And this is just a quick snippet of all of the webinars and all of the reminders of the webinars and the certificates that I can sign up for and all the things that I need to know on a daily basis, because maybe it's because I have sustainability in my title. Maybe it's because I go do some research and have to give my email. I did a quick, very rough count. I've gotten 1,200 invites to webinars in the past 12 months. I did a quick calculation. If I attended every one of those, roughly an hour a piece, I would spend 70% of my time in webinars trying to learn all of this. And that's generic. That's not even getting into what is my company's specific approach. What are the things that my industry is doing? So the webinars are great foundational, ways to develop a foundational knowledge, but they quickly become unusable because it's giving me details that I can't actually apply to the previous slide of the net zero roadmap. So I've been trying to figure out how do we address this within procurement, within Takeda. If you don't mind going to the next slide, please. So what Nancy mentioned, we hand our procurement colleagues, well, before I get to what Nancy mentioned, we hand our procurement colleagues all kinds of information, all kinds of resources. I do have a sourcing background. I spent the first 10 years of my career in category management, direct, indirect services, things like that. So I think that was incredibly lucky that I started my career in a sourcing capacity, because I still do remember the challenge and the pain of actually trying to address all of the needs of my sourcing team, my stakeholders, and then having somebody come to me and say, also, can you add this in there for the RFP, for the contract, for the relationship with the supplier. And it's pretty complicated. You'll need to read this, watch that, pay attention here. It's too much. So what, as Nancy mentioned, what not to do, the standards are killing us. Webinars, all these things, all of this information that's coming at us, and it's really hard to distill it into something useful and functional. And the traditional incentive structures aren't working anymore. Things like with the KPIs, with goals, what we've been running into the past few years, which I don't think is unique, it's creating conflicting priorities, reduce time and inventory, but also reduce your emissions by shipping by sea. Well, those two things are in direct conflict. And so then it becomes a battle of what's the higher priority and what does the stakeholder have to deliver against. And the normal sourcing solutions aren't working either. So the typical source to pay, you onboard the supplier, you make sure they have the right payment terms, you get right contracts, you get everything set up. But we're really not enabling any type of understanding or agreement for how are we going to achieve these commitments. So over the past few years, I've been trying to figure out how can we make this work. And this is where people like Alexi and some of our peers in procurement, they were standing in front of me all along, and I was looking at them trying to explain things instead of asking, what do you need? What works for you? How can we do this together? And I realized we're not connecting the basics to, in this case, Takeda strategy, but certainly I think this is true across any industry, any company, connecting the basics to the strategy and then integrating this, melding the strategy and the processes, the things that procurement is comfortable with and can understand. And now we're just modifying it or evolving it to address these needs. So what we ended up doing, thankfully, with the advice of Alexi and his teams and the rest of the team and his colleagues, we started looking at how can we scale this information more effectively, get the insights, the awareness to the teams in ways that is achievable, manageable, small bite-size steps. Because the other challenge is, if you've spent any time on Scope 3, it is a slippery slope. It is complicated. You look at one piece of information and suddenly you're clicking on things and clicking on more things. And I don't want to do that to anybody, because that's my job. How can I make this easier for my colleagues? I don't want to send you a link and say, knock yourself out, come back and let me know if you have questions. I mean, we may never see them again. They either run or they get lost in the whole of information. So this is where the work that we did over the course of the year and what ultimately we'll be imparting as part of World Sustainable Procurement Day. We developed action-oriented solutions and a framework to help teams develop knowledge and confidence that ultimately resulted in a playbook. So what we'll go through is the playbook is just like every other playbook. It's got, how do you do this? Here's some resources. But how we went about creating the playbook, I think, was really the key to success and kind of the secret that, again, was staring at me this whole time. And I just didn't realize it. Slide, please. I saw this, everybody's seen variations of the iceberg slide, but I thought this was really a really good kind of different way to remember we are not, we hear so much about data. We hear so much about getting the right data, the best data, sharing the data. How can we calculate with more precision? And what we're forgetting is that this is actually a people and process problem. We can get all the data in the world and it can be phenomenal, but if people don't know how to use it, we're still not going to be able to make effective decisions. So every time I have data providers coming to me telling me that they're going to solve my problems, and then I get an invite to a webinar, I remind myself and I remind them, if people can't use it, if people don't know how to use it, if they don't know what the data means, we're not going to be able to do much with it. So we've got to get our teams in a position where they can actually use the data and they understand it. So then it's meaningful. But right now, I think there's so much focus on getting the data right. We're forgetting about the people, the process, and the culture changes that have to happen to enable this global transition for decarbonization. Next slide, please. So I'll just spend a second on this one, but I think this is a good visual. We need to transition from this one subject matter expert per 500, per 1,000, where one person, 1 or 10 or 15 people really have a strong understanding of what the strategy is, and they're the go-tos for everything. Decarbonization with the all of the awareness we have about climate change and the impact of climate change and how it's accelerating and how every year is essentially exponentially growing, or reducing the amount of time we have to get to the 1.5, to get to 2050 to mitigate the worst of climate change. Every time, this has to become a core understanding of everybody's job. And this is just, again, the webinars aren't going to do it. So how do we do that? We have to transition. We have to get more people involved in small, meaningful projects that give them exposure, that give them insight, that give them some knowledge. Not everybody needs to become a subject matter expert on sustainability, on decarbonization, on biodiversity, whatever the topic is, but everybody has to understand their company's strategy and how it impacts their role, so that they can make decisions in support of their company's commitments. Next slide, please. Although my screen just went black. Did anybody else's?
Mine did as well.
Yeah,
Uh-oh.
mine also.
That's John.
And
It's not me.
and I think, Bridget, this is a great opportunity because you've gone through some great information before, and I know that I think in the background they're going to be working to put the slides back up to help us really get to the meat of the conversation. But let's just pause for a moment, because I think some of the things that you said are very important. The first is that we are overwhelmed in a good way with too much information. And as you made the point, if we were to take advantage of everything that's coming at us, we'd be really smart people about this topic with no time to do our jobs. So that's not going to be very helpful. I think what I'd love to hear from you is, you did, I still hear a lot doing the same, which is you started the process of saying, well, maybe my job is just to winnow this down and to maybe give some of that information to my teams. But what we're going to talk about in a minute is you found that that's actually not the way to go. How did you come to that conclusion that what you really needed to do is what we're going to talk about next? Why is you being that single point of contact that you just pointed out in the slide not helpful?
That's a great question. And I think it's taking everybody a while to realize we can't have just one point of contact that can help advise on that contract language, provide, give the supplier an overview on what is a science-based target, what is scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. There's not enough time in the week, the day, the month to get to all of the things that people need to know and to give all the supports that the teams need to achieve, to execute the strategy and to actually make progress. So I think that it takes a while, I think, for people to realize that this is not going away. This is not a topic that is going to kind of fade, like Y2K.
Mhm.
Y2K was kind of, everybody was focused on how are we going to deal with this? We were, I think, well prepared. That was at the very start of my career, so it's a bit of a bit hazy, but and it turned out to not be the problem that we thought it was. This is not the same. This is the future, and we all play a part in making decisions, and we have to have enough knowledge to make effective decisions with the strategy that our companies have set. So I think it's been an evolution, but it is, people are starting to realize they need to be able to work independently, or I slow them down. That's the other problem. I'm a bottleneck. I slow
That's,
people
I
down.
think, yeah, no, I think you've touched upon it. I mean, there is a new way to work. It used to be okay to have that one point of contact, and you would go to that. But for those of you who don't know my own background, I did mention I'm in industrial decarbonization, but I'm also a systems modeler. And so this is why I love the conversation that Bridget was bringing up, because she's pointing out the system problem. And of course, what we need is a systems change. So you're exactly right, Bridget. I'm going to be the person who looks at everything and then becomes that expert for everybody to touch and get that information from is just not sustainable. And it's ironic. That's exactly what we're talking about, being sustainable. So I think shifting it to where you actually create a team, as you said in that slide, and you start in creating that team, really operationalizing the work that you're doing, that is the new business process. And I think we're going to in a moment hear more about that and have Alexi talk about his role in being one of those sustainability advocates who's actually implementing, I think, what you've put forward as part of your actual guide on how you do it. And I know as we expect the slides to come back up, one of the exciting things that I liked is you talk about the playbook, but what was really exciting when you shared the playbook with me is, and it's necessary for making this shift from single individual to team happen, is that you've got a playbook that not only says the how, it says the why as well,
Yeah,
right? So I'm just super excited, but I see that we've got, I think, our slides back. Let me give it back to you. Let's continue to talk about the journey from the one to the many, the
yeah.
operationalizing of sustainability within the organization, the need to have these advocates, and the importance of the uh, playbook that you've put together that not only gives directions on what you're supposed to be doing, but why you're doing it. Bridget, back to you.
Thank you, Nancy. And Alexi, so if, John, do you mind going to the next slide, please? So Alexi, I'm going to ask in a moment for you to jump in on this. I wanted to give just a quick overview of, we realized we needed to get more people involved and we needed to go beyond the webinar, but we were really struggling with, I was struggling with what that looked like. So we took a look at, I developed a whole resource library full of information that teams could use to share with suppliers, to share with their stakeholders, just for their own use. But that's a lot of work to maintain. So it becomes quickly outdated if you're not careful. So it's a good basic and introductory option, but it needs to be something more relevant. So then I introduced some more opportunities to ask in real time. I was getting a lot of calls to say, can you meet for half an hour this day, 20 minutes on that day? I have a bunch of questions. So we did some work around the basics to just get more specifics and more timely information, and to bring more of the subject matter experts into some of these discussions. Then we evolved some of the options to the Sustainability Advocate Network. So how do we start developing hands-on projects, hands-on solutions? We also were started to find ways to learn from our procurement colleagues, people that are already doing the work. What have they done? And then finally, we get into the playbook, which is where really put together by the Sustainability Advocates Network. And started to also connect people in the team to external projects as well. So they become the subject matter expert and can bring the solutions into Takeda. So, Alexi, I think on the next slide, if you don't mind going forward, John, I think this is where we start to get into where you came into the picture. So, next slide, hit next, please. So I mentioned the resource library. And then there's also, I curated trainings and webinars that were useful for Takeda, useful for our industry, useful for the across procurement with the different categories. Additional webinars or content that were specific to things that were relevant to those teams. So packaged it up in kind of a boot camp. So take these 5 trainings or, listen to these 3 podcasts, that type of approach, so that it was curated. If you hit next, please. Alexi, you've been a presenter and a panelist in some of the drop-in sessions. I thought maybe you could touch on how those have evolved and what those typically focus on, having one specific topic for a little bit in the first half and then an open Q&A. Did you want to go through that piece at all with the drop-in sessions?
So regarding the drop-in session, Bridget.
Yes.
So we have, if you talk about the drop-in session, this is the whole year. We just have a lot of the different drop sessions, and one of the drop sessions are also they participated me, because I'm really excited that how it's possible to one project to change the shifted to the net zero emission. And this is the good, that this is the opportunity to see this not only our experience, it's also to see all the experience that we find on the world. And this is the good when we talk with the people and we see that during the drop-in sessions, the people they see that it's possible to do it, and it's possible to motivate them to change and to using as a Takeda to move to the sustainability way.
Yeah, so some of the topics we covered in the drop-in sessions 1 month was, what does net zero mean? What does it actually mean to achieve net zero? What does it mean to have a science-based target? Why is that the specific requirement? Why doesn't a sustainability report satisfy Takeda's expectation or requirement for science-based targets? Why doesn't having an EcoVadis scorecard satisfy the requirement for science-based targets? So really looking at one topic that I get a lot of questions about and going into that and showing where are the resources that you can access for more information. What does good look like? What are some of the examples of good case studies or good, kind of use cases that people can refer to? And then some of the Takeda specific information, here's how to navigate the resource library. Here is what the reporting actually means. So you see this number, where is it coming from? How can you find it? How can you access the inputs to that so that you understand why the dashboard says what it does? So those drop-in sessions have really given teams the opportunity to recommend topics for future sessions, get involved in presenting on a topic, and also it gives an open 20 minutes or so where, ask away. If there's a specific question you have on a specific topic or something you heard, something you read, it's open for the teams to ask anything that comes to mind.
Hey, Bridget, when you did those sustainability drop-in sessions, which I think these are fabulous. So you're saying you kind of went the route that many organizations go. You started to put together a resource library, you make it available, you allow members of your organization to pool information. But then really what you're now starting to do, and I think, Alexi, you said the value of this is to just make a specific day and time available. Those who want to can come in depending on how that topic resonates with them. And you're not only able to spend time learning more about it and why it's important, also mostly important to the organization and what you're trying to do, but how others are doing it, which is super exciting. What I'd like to ask is, how did you first think about these drop-in sessions? How did you get your first 2 or 3 session topics identified? Was this you said you get all these invitations from all of these presentations. Is it that, when you looked at all of those, you said, well, those seem to be the things that everybody else wants to talk about? And how'd you decide who to make this drop-in session open to, right? Was this just your team? Was this broader members of your organization? And then last, how many people normally showed up? Was this really then a venue for one-on-one engagement? And maybe Alexi can talk a little bit more about what it felt like to be part of that. But can we focus on that for just a minute? Because I think this is super important.
Yeah, so it's a really good question. How did I develop the structure and the topics? When we were first thinking through this idea of the drop-in session, I was like a deer in headlights. I panicked thinking, how am I going to make this useful? 1 hour a month. How am I going to find something that people will want to attend? Are they really just going to attend to ask questions and then leave? So that's where I came up with the structure of having one specific topic and then going through that with some level of detail and then opening it up for general Q&A. And that seemed to be working really well because it takes the pressure off of me to be ready to answer anything at any given moment. But it also allows me then to focus on something I need to communicate. So for example, the first session we had was about a renewable energy project that the pharmaceutical industry has partnered on to share with our suppliers. And there's communications that have to go out, there's awareness, there's things that we need to send to our suppliers, there's things I needed the category teams to know. And it was too much for an email, it was too much for a team meeting. I didn't have the capacity to meet with every procurement team to give them that overview. So I used that opportunity to share what they needed to know, what resources were available, and what we needed them to do on a timeline. So it became really useful for me to also have that time to share a specific message, as some event or some deadline. There's CDP reporting is coming up. So I'm going to spend some time on CDP in one of the future sessions. And typically we have about 30 to 40 people attend, which is around 25% of the organization. I also record the sessions, so I think people access them afterward, although I don't have a code for that. But it is part of this boot camp that we've developed so people can kind of get the progression of content through a learning track. So
Great. So you actually reuse the drop-in sessions as well for the boot camp. So it's multiple benefits from it. That's fantastic. And Alexi, so you drop in on these sessions and you were talking about how it was valuable for you to hear from others and both what questions they raised, but potentially examples and solutions. Were those drop-in sessions really the best way that you were able to, at that time, learn what was necessary and how to start operationalizing or implementing decarbonization?
So thank you very much for the question, Nancy. This session is very, very useful and very helpful. It's increasing awareness and provided essential knowledge of sustainability practice. And by the way, this is the very intensive way. So we are not the like election. This is the like interaction. So it's possible to have the first part of the session. This is the something new, and people know what is the SBTI target. Maybe we don't know what is the science-based target initiatives. What is our target for for Takeda? What is the scope 3? What is the scope 1, scope 2, scope 3? This is the very important. And we see that's not the like one way. This is interaction. And when the Bridget or someone else to present, this is the good that this is the something new. And after that, they have the questions. This is a lot of questions. It's very important to people hear, learn, collaborate, and it's possible to increase the awareness inside of the organization. This is very helpful.
This sounds very powerful, but Bridget, now I mentioned we had dinner. I got to know your commitment to sustainable procurement and your breadth of exposure on how you do this. This wasn't enough for you, right? You moved on. So talk a little bit about then that playbook that you had pulled together And Alexi, I don't see you wearing it, but I think you're part of the Sustainable Advocates team. As far as I understand, you get a special T-shirt for that, right? Or
I gotta get that
has that
sourced.
not been distributed yet?
It's on the way. It's on the way, Alexi.
Yeah, so if
Bridget,
you
so what can you
Yeah,
talk a little bit more? And forgive me, I think we also have additional slides too, and I
yeah,
don't want to keep
yeah,
us out of order, but let's talk a little bit more then about the playbook and what the advocates were doing, because I think that was then a progression
yeah.
of these drop-in sessions.
Yeah, so if you don't mind going to the next couple of slides, please, or hitting forward. So you'll see on the bottom corner left there, highlighted, this is how we're accelerating and scaling solutions with the Sustainability Advocates Network. So we pulled the team together, people that I open it up to anybody in procurement and a few different groups that work with procurement, anybody that's personally interested. There are a number of sustainability teams, kind of grassroots, like green teams around Takeda, and for personal interest. The challenge is that doesn't correlate to the strategy. The intention behind this was to say, here is, if you're interested in learning about decarbonization, about Takeda's strategy, and helping improve how we're working on these topics, please volunteer. So we've got a number of people interested. If you don't mind moving ahead, please. Great. So I won't go through this whole slide, but the idea is the pace of knowledge has to increase, and I can't do it alone. So not only with internal development, but also things are coming at us all the time. I know there was Chris Lowe's session earlier about carbon pricing. I need someone that can get involved in that and can help me figure out how do we do this. I can't get involved in to the extent that I'd like to. There's a number of developments that are happening where we need the knowledge, but I can't be the participant. I don't have the capacity, but also somebody else might be interested, and this is a great career move for them. So put this team together. It benefits Takeda because we can scale the knowledge more quickly. It benefits the participant because there's a great Hackett report that came out about a year ago that highlights that sustainability and climate are the emerging fourth skill set, core skill set for procurement professional. So this is a great resume builder, but also benefits the sustainability advocates team and the greater procurement team, because now we're getting additional depth of knowledge and bringing it to Takeda. And I'm learning something and not trying to figure out a way to bring it back, but somebody's already on top of that. So that's where we launched the playbook. So if you don't mind going ahead, please. So Alexi, do you want to start on some of the kind of details behind the playbook and going through how we kind of got to the point where we decided to create a playbook because we needed something to help us.
Yeah, thank you, Bridget. So first of all, I would like just a little bit back regarding the Sustainable Advocates Network. This is the very good, and this is the good solution. And for me, when the Bridget sent, first of all, this is the who just would like who is the volunteer of this. This definitely I see that I was the volunteer of this. And first of all, I would like to say thank you to the Bridget, because the Bridget was a leader, and they motivated us as a team to encourage me to be curious about it, so to find the new way. And after that, when we collaborate inside of our team, so as they just some teams, and we create as this is the procurement playbook. What we need to learn about it, what we need to do it for our colleagues. And we identify some part of this. This is like a third-party risk management part. We identify RFP part, contract language, because it's very important, and performance management. And inside of our team, they have the absolutely different the people. And after that, this is not only the colleagues. This is like a friend, because we collaborate, and we have a lot of the new ideas how to create this playbook. And this is the new And they include a lot of the things. They include the useful links. They include some case studies. They include the work instruction. They include the governance, how to do it. And this is the very, very helpful. And this is in one place. Yeah,
So
Bridget.
each member of the team, just a quick fill in a few details. Each member of the team took a different section, and it was manageable. It was concise. It wasn't trying to tackle the whole process. Alexei, for example, did a great job on third-party risk management, and he just, what is Takeda's current process? How could we improve it? And what would be helpful to Alexei? I'm speaking for you, so correct me if you disagree. But what about third-party risk management do I need to know, and what would be helpful in a playbook? So that's, each person took a different section and created, working, as Alexei mentioned, the different elements. If you don't mind going forward, please. So it was a little bit, in retrospect, mad genius that I didn't see at the time, but it turned out to be a mad genius move, because not only did I get the benefit of a playbook that I didn't have to create on my own, it was also how I thought it should work. It was developed by people who actually do the sourcing and could say what was helpful to them, what was not. And this is where the genius part came in, the accidental genius. Everybody became essentially a subject matter expert on the area that they focused on, which then gave them kind of the confidence and the base to start asking questions about other elements and becoming interested in developing knowledge on something else related. So it really was, it was kind of a double benefit that I didn't expect, having people become their own subject matter experts on these topics. And now I have essentially a super user group that teams can go to and ask questions, and then they escalate, essentially, kind of like when you roll out a new system, escalate to me when there is something that is more in depth than what they might be able to address. So Alexei,
Bridget,
yeah. Oh, sorry, Nancy.
Bridget, let me ask. So this sounds fantastic. You're absolutely right. So you had your drop-in sessions, but then you took it the extra level. You created your sustainability advocates group, and that group organically came together. Everybody decided on which portion of the playbook they would do. They invested, created this great playbook, and now you not only have the playbook, but individuals as part of that team who can go ahead and be a resource for others within the organization as well. All this sounds fantastic. How though, and you talked about the importance of highlighting this for your team members, how did you get team members to, as you point out, value their investment in this? Because this was volunteer. Did you work with your HR people? How did you make sure that this great opportunity to be part of the advocates, to be part of the team that puts the playbook together, was really put out there within your organization? How can others do that?
Yeah, so I think this was very much a grassroots effort, fairly informally within procurement. But what has evolved out of this is now there's a lot of opportunity for the members of the team to get a lot of face time. So they're developing career skills, but they're also getting some awareness in areas that they may not have had exposure and where in their current roles, or in the role that their kind of day job. So I think it was really tapping into individual interest, as well as kind of highlighting the opportunities to expand your circle, expand your knowledge, expand your stakeholders, and get some recognition. So I think that I'm hoping in fiscal year 25, one of my goals is to actually get more formalization around this and actually start working with HR to embed this into things like our leadership development program, where there's a rotation, other way. Can we get this into more executive messaging? Can we get kind of mentorships across the company with executives that are particularly knowledgeable or influential on sustainability and decarbonization? So there's a lot of kind of soft opportunities or soft benefits that really do add up to a very powerful selling point, I think.
And Alexa, you were one of those people who stepped in and took ownership on what sounds like an incredibly interesting and important chapter. What motivated you to do this, and where would you like to have this continue to go? What does this mean for your own activities within Takeda?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So this is the first of all, the motivated. This is the mentor. So the Bridget is the mentor. This is the good that they show that this is the very important for organization. The second one inside of me. So what's the need to do? How we can influence on this inside of the Takeda? This is the also the motivated me to do it. The third thing, this is the I meet with the new friends and colleagues, received expertise to different departments, and integrated this approach to sustainability. This is very important that they, as the one organization, work to achieve our target. We have the very precise target for the Takeda in each the years, and we see the how it's possible to achieve it. So this is the very helpful, and also they motivated me to participate in this. And one of the chapter, this is the in Playbook, and this is the good Playbook, and I very 100% sure that this is helpful inside the organization in the future.
Now, this sounds fantastic. And Bridget, I think I see we've got, for those who are participating externally and listening, they are saying what I sometimes think as well, knowing you. You make it sound so easy, right? This just
Yeah.
happened. So as you think through, you've talked a little bit already where you see this going, and that's fantastic, and how you see it being actually coming into, like you say, kind of the leadership principles of the organization and really being operationalized. But let's be honest now, what were some of the pain points that you saw in getting to creating the Sustainability Advocates Network and pulling this playbook together? What would you have done differently if you now know what you know?
Yeah, so I am thrilled that it made it look easy. It definitely was not. I think the fact that we submitted our first science-based target in 2020, and we're actually at the end point for the first. It took me 4 years to realize that I should be going down this path. So I think while it may look easy, it took a long time for me to realize it's okay that I don't know everything, and it's okay that I don't have the answers for everything, nor should I. So I think that the challenges were really just figuring out. It took me a long time to figure out that I need to recruit people to help me, and people want to get involved, but I needed to figure out a way to get them involved. So I think, this is something I wish someone had slapped me over the head with in 2021 and said, duh, here you go. You need to get some people that are interested, demonstrate progress and success. And I've already got people asking me about it because we just launched the playbook today. And I already have people asking me, how can they get involved? How can they learn more? Telling me this is the resource I always needed. So I think while it may look like it's been fairly easy, there are 8 dedicated people that are interested in personally and professionally. But it took a long time for me to realize that I did not need to be the one that did everything, and that I need help, and that this is a great way to do it.
I think that's fantastic, and thanks for being honest about this is harder to do, and that you shouldn't be the only one doing it, because that is that change from one to many that you outlined earlier. Now, I also see there's some questions about, great, you put this playbook together. You talked about, when you said the drop-in sessions, how you arrived at the topics to focus on for the drop-in sessions. How did you arrive at the topics to focus on in the playbook? Were they exactly the same, or how did you come up with that?
No, so the topic for the playbook actually, if you move forward, I think it'll be a good vision. I think the next slide should be the visual. It's essentially, what is the sourcing process, right? So in a typical sourcing process, I developed contract language. I developed RFP language. I had TPRM, our process for that. I'd integrated scope 3. Those seemed like great places to start because everybody sources in procurement. Everybody needs RFP templates. They need contracts. They need TPRM. So we have those, and everybody understands that. So it felt like that was a really good base to build off of for the first year and see how it went. And now, as we're looking at our fiscal year is ending next week, and so we're looking at fiscal year 25. How do we build on that with additional topics? And I'm asking for input. I'm putting this up there and saying, to the broader team, to the all of procurement, what do you want to hear about? Are these the right things to focus on next? And I'll take the cue from the teams and what they're asking for.
And Alexi, how did you decide as a volunteer which portion of the playbook you wanted to focus on?
This is a very interesting question. So I'm as a procurement, I'm responsible for the process for to purchase and to procure and this. And one of the topic, this is for me, I need to deep dive. This is the third party risk management because it's very crucial. We have some risk assessment. In this case, we need to show that this is TPRM. It's a big part, but we have the TPRM in scope 3. And this is we have some question regarding scope 3 and what is our suppliers, what we need to achieve together with the SBTI target. And this is very important that we see when they just ask the question, they not only see what is the commitment of the SBTI, we say also from the risk owner what is the recommendation and how it's possible to achieve the net zero emission. And this is the good that we see and communicate with the people and with the people inside of our suppliers, that how it's possible to achieve together, not only Takeda, it's also the suppliers which we are working, and we are gorgeous that we are working with, have the relationship with these suppliers.
That's fantastic. And I'm so glad that you bring up suppliers. So Bridget and Alexi, what role have suppliers had in the playbook? Or in fact, what role have other members of the organization, internally or even externally, in your very important ecosystem had in this playbook? Or how do you see them maybe engaging in this playbook in the future?
I hadn't thought about how we could scale this with suppliers. I think it's actually two ways, right? There's a resource to share for their own operations, their own programs, as they're developing their sustainability and their decarbonization initiatives. But internally, one of the drop-in sessions we had today with Japan a little while ago, they brought up, this actually is a really good way for us to explain to our stakeholders that aren't in procurement why this is important. It's more tangible than just here's the RFP, here are the RFP questions, or here is the contract language. This gives them context, and it gives them a sense of other resources beyond just the actual questions or process itself, but the case studies, the links, things like that. Very, very useful for teams to influence their stakeholders in awareness and understanding. But Alexi, I don't know if you find it useful in that capacity as well. But those are the emerging messages I was starting to get today as we presented.
Yeah, this is the very, very helpful. And as you mentioned, that this is in two ways. So this is inside and outside the organization. And this is very important not to know inside of this. This is also the outside, because if you do it and you would like to achieve the net zero emission together, we need to know the both way. So our target and also the supplier's target. In this case, it's possible to at the end of the process, we achieve the one way to net zero emission. So, yeah. Agree.
Well, I know that we're coming to the end of this session, and of course, our World Sustainable Procurement Day continues with additional conversations. As we come to the close of this session, it has been an honor, Bridget and Alexi, to allow me to engage with you on this. What great work Takeda is doing, and what specific, clear examples of what not to do and to do you both have provided. With this being the last minute or so, are there any closing thoughts that you want to give? And in particular, any statements of support for those who are in the sustainable procurement journey and are still trying to find their way? Any closing thoughts and any statements of support?
Lexi, you want to go?
I will just pass the word to you, Bridget.
So I would say something that I actually said to Nancy when we were in London is, these are my people. Like you in this world. I explained it to somebody earlier today. World Sustainable Procurement Day is like my Lollapalooza or my Woodstock. Like these are the people that I can contact. Yeah, and with the question. I mean, we are not colleagues, and across all these companies, we are friends, and we, really, truly, you have people to reach out to, you have people to contact. That's part of why I love my career so much now, because everybody just wants to do the right thing. Everybody wants to help. So my parting words would be we're your people, use us.
And I think that is a great summation. And that's what the Sustainable Procurement Pledge and the chapters and those who participate, and of course the Scope 3 peer group, which is a very valuable additional group as well, is all about. And it's all about action, and it's all about us being there for us, for procurement, by procurement. So thanks both of you. This has been a fantastic session. I think with that, we can go ahead and close, allow people to get some coffee or some tea or some water to make sure that you stay for the next session that's going to follow shortly. So thank you all. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Nancy.
At SAP, we see procurement as a powerful force for good. More than just sourcing goods and services, it's about creating meaningful impact. Sustainability starts with the decisions we make today, and procurement plays a central role in shaping a future that prioritizes people, protects our planet, and drives lasting prosperity. From reducing emissions to fostering ethical supply chains, we are turning big ideas into real action. But this journey isn't just about SAP. It's about all of us working together. One World Sustainable Procurement Day, let's celebrate how far we've come and share our stories to inspire even greater change. Every decision matters, and together we can turn procurement into a driver of sustainability for a better tomorrow.